Okay. We'll call the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting for June the 23rd, 2020 at 9 a.m. at the historic courthouse in Brainerd, Minnesota to order. First order on the county board's agenda is a pledge allegiance to the flag and a moment of silence. If you'd all please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 2 on the county board's agenda is we're going to recognize a very fine person on her retirement from Crow Wing County, and we're sad to see you go. It looks like Jory's going to talk, so we'll turn it over to Jory.
Good morning. Thank you. After 16 years, Glo Bouchard is retiring.
16 years, 6 months, and 10 days.
It's my fault. She came to Crow Wing County after a 20-year career at Anderson Brothers. Glo's been an exemplary employee in areas of safety, customer service, and teamwork. One thing about Glo, excuse me, is she goes out her way to make brownies for every meeting and birthday cakes for everybody's birthday. So, like you said, Commissioner, she's going to be well missed. So, thank you, Glo.
Been fun, but I'm so excited to be going to retire. I got a 4-year-old niece that I haven't hugged since March 1st. So once I'm not working, I figure I could have her again. I could give her hugs. So that's the biggest thing I'm excited about.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
I did ask her right before we came up here if she wanted to change her mind, and she said no. So.
My days left. Tim, he gave me the beginning of the month. He gave me it had 25 days, and every day it's calendar days. So every day I've been handing them out to all the people I work with. So I'm down to this many. And the last one, I'm going to put a tape and I'm going to stick it right above the locker. I think I'm going to stand on something so they can't just take it down, and they're going to remember me. They're not going to forget me. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, Glo, don't leave yet. We've got a certificate of excellence that the county board would like to present to you. And I just want to say on behalf of the county board, we want to thank you for your years of dedicated service to this county. I know all the citizens appreciate the work that you've done. And I have heard from people about the job that you do, and I've heard great glowing things about your performance. I even talked to somebody that works at Anderson Brothers, and I told them that you were retiring, and they said, oh, she was so great when she was here too. So, Godspeed. I know one door closes and another one opens, and this is going to be a brand new adventure for you, and I'm excited for you, but I think I'm sure the whole county board says that we're sad to see you leave, because I think once you get a good person working here that's dedicated like you are, we hate to see him leave. And but we've got a certificate. Are we going to take a picture? Okay. If we'll get right up in front here, I've got a certificate I'd like to present to you.
No, I got you in there. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, got it.
Thanks, guys.
Congratulations. Enjoy.
We should have had that presentation on the end, so we'd end on a happy note.
I like that.
But we'll always end on a happy note here. So, anyway, that's wonderful. What a great person. 9:05, I believe it is 9:05. So, the chair would accept a motion to open a public hearing on an off-sale liquor license for the Paradise Resort Bar and Grill Incorporated, doing business as Paradise Bar and Grill in the town of Maple Grove. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine, seconded by Commissioner Barrows to open the public hearing. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, so we're in the public hearing. Is there anybody that's virtually here, Therese, to?
There is not.
There is not. Is there anybody, Mr. Hool, is there anybody that has written any letters or anything that, of support or opposition to this?
Mr. Chairman, no, there has not.
Okay, and obviously, it doesn't look like there's anybody in the audience that's to speak on this. So I guess we'll look for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine to close the public hearing on the off-sale liquor license for Paradise Resort Bar and Grill. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Barrows. To close the public hearing, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Now we're on to number 3.1 on the county board's agenda, which is the request for board action for the off-sale, to grant the off-sale liquor license for Paradise Resort Bar and Grill Incorporated.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Franzine,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Brecken. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Congratulations to them. Next is number 4 on the county board's agenda. It's open forum. I see that we've got a list here. Mark Miller, Mark, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Todd Rogenkamp, and Michael Starry. So normally what we do is you'd speak on anything that was not on the county board's agenda, but I guess out of respect, I guess, and I don't know if you want to stay for the whole meeting and speak when we get to this portion. Anybody want to say anything?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioner,
Yeah.
this is Mark Miller. I would like to speak when we get to the point of
Okay.
the actual Breezy Point tax forfeit lots. I don't need to speak at the open forum if that's okay with you guys.
Okay. All right, then that's the way we'll do it. If you want to, if you're going to stay for the whole meeting then, Mark?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Perfect. Well, then that's the way we'll do it then, and then if you're here to speak about the lots up in Breezy Point, why don't you just wait until we get to that portion of the county board's agenda, if that's okay? And Michael, would you be okay with, I think I know why you want to speak at open forum, would you be okay with waiting until we get to that discussion on the county board's agenda?
Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Anybody else to speak in open forum that, with anything that is not on the county board's agenda? No, there is not. Okay, that takes care of open forum. So we've got a review and approval of the June 9th, 2020 regular county board meeting minutes. the June 15th County Board of Appeal and Equalization minutes that need to be approved. Any additions or corrections, or is there a motion to approve both of those?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine to approve the June 9th, 2020 regular county board meeting minutes and the June 15th, 2020 County Board of Appeal and Equalization. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barrows. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. So now we're on to today's agenda. I know that we want to move some stuff around. Gary, can you come up here and tell me what you need to have done?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm asking if we could withdraw the number 714 and 715 and just add them as 8.2 and 8.3 under land services for
Okay.
further discussion
Okay.
with an additional, probably an 8.5, if you will. I know exactly how we would do this.
Okay,
And it's to potentially add additional lots potentially to the list that didn't make it on the official agenda.
Okay.
And then I'm also requesting if we could add an additional item, a memorandum of understanding discussion here today for like 8.5 or 8.6, whatever that would make it.
okay, we can do that. Memorandum of understanding for what?
A potential decon station in Breezy Point.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else, everybody understand that? Any other additions or, Mr. Hool, anything else added to the agenda or?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Nope, okay.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda with the changes. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve today's agenda with the additions or the additions, and seconded by Commissioner Barrows. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Next on the county board's agenda is the consent agenda. So it's everything from 7.1 through 7.13, I believe.
Yep.
And so is there any discussion on any items on the consent agenda? I don't see any discussion. Chair would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda 7.1 through 7.13.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Brecken to accept and adopt the consent agenda. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. So now we're on to land services. 8.1 is recycling policy. And, Gary, I'm assuming that you're
Yeah.
speaking.
I'll-
Gary Griffin, Land Services Director.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Today, for your consideration, is to adopt a recycling policy, an updated recycling policy for the county, which would in effect reduce the number of drop sites that we fund down to 2, and also have a cost-sharing measure that if a city or township wanted to continue with a drop site at their location, that it would be a 50% cost-share match, and they would be responsible or liable for overage costs, contamination costs, and they would need to monitor and ensure that the site was secure. I know I went through that real quick. Any questions for me?
Any questions of Gary from the county board?
And I would be remiss, I am sorry, I believe we just got a letter from the city of Nisswa.
Correct.
I don't know if you guys have I got copies here for everybody.
I don't know if we did or not. I don't see it.
Mr. Chairman, I just forwarded it to your emails, to Gary
That's
and to
great.
Ryan and to Chelsea as well.
I've
It
got
came this morning.
So with that, Ryan Simonson and myself attended a city council meeting last Thursday night to give them an update as to what was presented to the county board as to We gave you 5 options at a committee of the whole, and it was, the majority, it seemed clear that you wanted to go with these 2 options that were presented to you today. We also let the city of Nisswa know that. In their letter, you know, they want to have more time to see what they could do. I want to reiterate that these changes are for in effect 2021, so the recycling drop site there is going to continue for the rest of the year with the city of Nisswa. So they do have time to, if they want to, put that in their budget for 2021, if that's the decision you make today.
Say, Gary,
Commissioner Brecken.
yes, say, they were showing that they've had a 103% increase in their hauling in tons. 440 ton, how does that compare to some of the other landfill or drop-off zones?
Sure, a great question. Let me see if Ryan has that. I don't. Ryan, do you have those numbers, Andy? So City of Crosby, 257 tons. City of Cross Lake was 317. And of course, Brainerd Baxter are quite higher than that, but they are the highest drop location we have other outside of Brainerd Baxter. Landfill was 130 tons.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Gary,
Commissioner Brecken.
what do the surrounding counties charge for their annual recycling?
Cass County, I'm aware, it's approximately around $65, $66 their assessment, if you will, that helps their recycling and solid waste efforts. As far as Morrison, I'm drawing a blank, and Aiken. I do know that they are both, I believe, more than ours. Ours currently is a $15 special assessment.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do another question. We're kind of looking at this because we see that the SCORE funding, is that running out?
Not running out, it hasn't been increased in quite a long time. And the demands and the cost continue to rise without additional funding. And so what it's really doing is our revenues that aren't going up are not keeping up with our expenses. So our expenses are basically getting to be more than the revenue that's coming in.
Any further discussion? You know, I think that the whole recycling world has changed over the last year or 2 years, where I know for a while there, the only thing I can think of is like cardboard was like $150 a ton, and then all of a sudden it was $30 a ton, and for the hauler to even haul it down to recycle it, it wasn't worth it. I think it's bounced back some, but I think with the battle that we got going on with China, a lot of recyclables are just not being recycled, you know. So this whole recycling thing has changed, and I guess I'd caution that just raising the solid waste fee, I don't know that that's the answer either. More, I just think if people if they wanna recycle, I mean, you can bring it out to the landfill and they'll take it. So, and I don't know, are we recycling mattresses yet, or are we still throwing them in a landfill? I know I was out there to drop off some brush, and there was somebody with a mattress right in front of me, and they did not go to the recycling. They went up the hill.
Yep, we are still landfilling the mattresses.
Yeah. All right. So it looks, board members, it looks like we've got a request for board action on the recycling policy. Is there a motion to adopt this request for board action?
I'll move the motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion for the recycling policy to adopt that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Barrows. Any further discussion on the recycling policy? Hearing none, all in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, next, Gary, what's next here? Are you
Sure.
gonna take like 714 and 715 then?
Yeah, if it's okay, this will just kind of be all one big discussion
Okay.
with tax forfeited lots
Sure.
in our county. What we had was, I believe it was the last board meeting or the board meeting before that, I can't recall, but we came in front of you and asked for a potential aggressive reduction. And you guys did pass that we reduce our current values by 25% on our tax forfeited properties that are for sale. And that's what we're taking to our July auction. At about the same time, we had a development in Breezy, which was really exciting, that a developer out of St. Cloud wanted to potentially work with the HRA and secure, the numbers fluctuated from maybe 130 to 150 different parcels or tracts, if you will, up in Breezy for building affordable housing. And since then, that number has shrunk to, I believe, 50 or 60 parcels. And so what we are attempting to do today is not only get all the property in Crow Wing County updated and have you guys approve the new set sale prices with the updated values, which include the 25% reduction, which is, again, I got to say is very exciting because since I've been here, we've never done that. You know, so it's the most aggressive you guys have done on the actual sale prices. And with that reduction from the developer not wanting the 130 or 40 parcels and going down to about 60 parcels, we did not get them to administration in time to get them into your board packet. So the first thing we're trying to do today was to add those also into the bigger list, if that's kind of making sense with that additional action today. So one was just kind of updating everything. This happened so quick with developer not wanting all those lots. We're like, it would be kind of a shame, if you will, not to be able to auction them in July. And so that's why it was kind of important to come to you today to get them back on the list if you so choose to do so. The other piece of that is what I brought was either a decision to potentially just add those and let the developer go ahead with his 50 or 60 lots with the HRA, or go ahead and just see if you want to try to sell what you can sell in July, all of them, and see what sells with the new reduced price. And so that's kind of the discussion I I think we wanted to have today.
Okay. Gary, is that your synopsis of things?
Yeah, I know there was a lot of stuff there, maybe a lot of different questions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the folks probably want to
Yeah.
speak too.
So I think at this point, now that Gary's given his synopsis of what his thoughts are, I think we're going to go to, there's some people that are on video. Mark Miller, I think we'll start with you. Mark, you want to make some comments on this, I believe. So go ahead, you've got the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and County Commissioners. I appreciate you allowing me to speak here. There's a little bit of feedback, so forgive me if I talk between my statements. So with this 25% reduction, what I'd like to see is go to the auction block on to give everyone who had an interest in those tax forfeited lots to purchase them at the new pricing. Instead of allowing the HRA to pull those lots, in my opinion, prematurely from the public's availability. I think this is, a common sense request to ask. I don't think it's out of line. I know that there are a lot of people in Breezy Point that support this. And I think given the opportunity, the county will see a large influx of purchasing at the July 24th auction that will bring in, market value dollars for the for Crow Wing County.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Michael Morini? Michael? Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, thank you. It's actually Michael Maroney. I do serve on the city council here in Breezy Point, and I would like to echo what Mr. Miller had said in regards to offering it to the community for purchase at the reduced rate. The reduced rate was something that the county approved, what I believe before the developer came, so I believe it would be something worthwhile for you to consider of offering those to the community, since that was approved before the developer came to light. So I think it is something, you know, for you to consider on all the tracks. That's really all I have to say on that.
And Michael, you are on the Breezy Point City Council?
I am, yes.
Okay. Okay. Todd Rogenkamp. Todd, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am, Chair Corey.
Todd, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chair Corey, and the Board of Commissioners for allowing me to speak today on behalf of this topic. I would also echo some of the other comments made by Mr. Miller and Mr. Maroney regarding the opportunity for the citizens of Breezy Point to have a chance to be able to bid on these parcels of land. And I would recommend to them, hopefully, that you would consider the idea of putting these all back on so they're on the July 24th sale to give people an opportunity to potentially purchase them at that discounted. I do want to state to the board, I commend you on this aggressive action with regards to the 25% discount. And I think then, with that being said, allowing everybody to have that chance to be able to purchase these properties is the correct and right way to go. After that, maybe then there is potential along the line for HRA. And we all know, without going into a lot of things, there's a lot of details that have to be worked out with that for that to even be successful up here in a lot of different ways, working with the Breezy City Council as well as the county board. So I do think that that would be a common sense approach, giving everybody that opportunity to be allowed to have that chance to purchase those properties. And, you know, just in saying, just briefly, that to me, that's proactive government. That's the way it should be. And I think that's important in today's day and age where we're at. We see a lot of reactionary stuff going on in government right now, and proactive government is a good way to go. So those would be my statements on that. Thank you.
Todd, thank you for that. County board members, thoughts from you, motions?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Brecken?
If I can ask, Mr. Miller, have you been, with the decision that you're making or sharing today, have you been in further discussion with administration at Breezy Point?
I have stated my viewpoints with Patrick Russo, Tom, Gary Bakken, members of the City Council. I am on the Planning and Zoning Commission for Breezy Point, and I am also a builder. I've purchased these tax forfeited lots, primarily in the Delwood Acres area, just north of 11, between East Street and West Street. And I paid fair market value for them. I have no income, restrictions or government program working with me to do this. So everything that I do is open and available to the public at large. I hope that helps to answer the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Brecken.
there's also been a lot of misinformation in regards to this. What kind of a price range of homes do you, when you build, or what's the price range that you're involved in?
Mr.
So
Miller?
my houses list for $205,000. They're a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot, 2-stall attached garage, single family residence.
Okay. If I can,
Commissioner Breckman,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
I have one other thing that I'd like to share, and that's also with the HRA, who has been also involved in this. But the primary goal for the HRA and the policy with the tax forfeit properties is to build Crow Wing County's density and tax base by ensuring that tax forfeit properties are developed. And so they really have helped us with that, and we've obviously seen what Brainerd did with that with Brainerd Oaks. To eliminate blight and reinvest in our neighborhoods, to clear straightforward and efficient procedures for the HRA and developers to act on acquisitions of tax forfeit properties, and to encourage developers' investments to stabilize the Crow Wing County neighborhoods and construct affordable housing. So that's really, the purpose of the HRA and what they try to move forward in regards to what they're doing, and the goal that they were working with Mr. Miller on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So, anybody, any of the other board members, anything? So Gary, just back to, adopting 7.14 and adopting 7.15, I'm assuming you want those adopted, does that put all the lots back on to the auction then, or potentially back onto the auction?
Those two will put everything on except for the Breezy Point lots.
Okay,
None of those, there was 100 and, I want to say it was 150, 170, somewhere there that was on hold. None of those are on 714 or 715.
so we'd need a motion, if we wanted to put all those back on to the auction at a 25% discount, we'd have to have a motion to that
Yeah,
effect.
if I could, my recommendation would be to make action on the old 714 and 715, which is whatever the new numbers are. And I have a resolution for you today to either approve the Breezy Point lots that are no longer on hold, or to approve and put all of them back on.
Okay.
So I have
So
that kind of different, whichever one you choose to do.
Let's just look for a motion then for 7.14 and 7.15 right now, so we can get that disposed of. Is there a motion to adopt 7.14 and 7.15?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Barrows. Any further discussion on those two items? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. So now we're at the point where we're talking about the lots in Breezy Point, whether we have those on the public. You're proposing put them on the public auction at a 25% discount. Is that what you have?
Yeah, the why we were coming right away was as soon as we were aware of the lots not going to be, if you will, taken by this other developer, we wanted to see if we could get them on the list. And then, we've gotten some feedback, well, can we just try to maybe sell and see what sells with the new aggressive price? So
Right.
those are the two options that we had for you today, because you do have a developer that has been working with the HRA. I think you guys need to, kind of consider that, in my opinion. At the same time, this is somewhat new, if you will, at least it is to me, that will this aggressive price really move some of these lots?
Is there a motion to put all the lots in Breezy Point on the public auction coming up in a month at a 25% discount? Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Franzine that we put all the lots in Breezy Point on the public auction in, coming up in July at a 25% discount. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hoag. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just
Yes.
want to be sure that I'm clear with Mr. Miller that you are willing to step away and allow all the lots to go on public auction.
If Mr. Miller,
I would like to clarify, I am not working with the HRA. I don't represent the developer from St. Cloud. I am a Breezy Point resident, opposed to the hold of those lots. I'm in favor of seeing all those lots go back to the public auction on July 24th.
Anything further, Commissioner?
No.
No? Okay. Got a motion reiterate the motion that all the lots in Breezy Point be put on a public auction coming up in a month at a 25% discount. Everybody understand that motion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And then one other item you had a memorandum of understanding for what, Gary?
It's for a potential decon station in Breezy Point. The history on this is we used to have a local government agreement or delegation agreement with the city of Breezy Point that the Pelican Lakes Association ran their own AIS program. So the 4 accesses at Pelican Lake, and they had their own decon station at the car wash at the Pelican Lake Center, was all run really with Pelican Lakes Association, and what we were kind of a pass-through. So we would allocate, money to them, and they would run their program. Since then, the city of Breezy Point no longer wanted the delegation agreement with the Lake Association, so then that reverted back to us this year. So our staff are at the accesses in Breezy Point. The Lakes Association approached us and asked if we would consider a partnership. They have an investment there with the owner of the convenience store, car wash, Pelican Square, and it's actually pretty. It's pretty effective, I guess, or efficient, where you just plug this little cart in, and you can do decons right there inside the self-serve car wash. So the idea is, we didn't budget for this in 2020. And we weren't entertaining that in our AIS plan that you guys approved in February. But the idea is, if they're willing to pay for the staffing, if you will, the investment is already there, to potentially have a memorandum of how this will work, and we would have another decon location in our county that could be fairly successful. What we would say is, this is kind of a pilot for us to really see how many we get and how effective it really can be. The difference on this one, and why it's a little unique, is because it's at a private business, so it's a little bit different than just having a decon either up at our public facility, our joint facility in Cross Lake, or if it was on a landing that's a public property.
So Gary, you might want to explain, I think there's a few people that watch our county board meetings and might want to explain what you're talking about. When you say decon, I don't want somebody to think we're talking about
sure.
rat poison.
Yes, absolutely. My apologies. I know sometimes I get caught up in the things we just, whatever, but decontamination stations are what these are called. And what they really do is, we use hot water to either remove or kill aquatic invasive species. So
On
things
people's
like
boats and pontoons.
boats, pontoons, jet skis, even kayaks if needed, and trailers and what have you. And so zebra mussels, milfoil, spiny water flea over Mille Lacs Lake, things like that, to help control that spread if one needs it.
Any discussion from the board members?
And I do have a kind of a mocked up RBA, if you wanted to put that up on the screen and see if you wanted to.
That'd be great. Give that to Therese. Does that make sense to everybody? And then we have another decontamination center. We used to have one in Cross Lake. Do we still have that in Cross Lake going, or is it
Yeah.
mobile?
Well, we actually have the one in Cross Lake, and this is our first year that we have a mobile unit too. So we wanted to increase, one of the big points of feedback is we don't have enough decontamination areas to go to when somebody needs one. The likelihood they're going to go 40 or 50 miles to go get that decon when they need to get home, or or just coming up, is remote, if you will. And so we doubled our effort already. This would, in a sense, almost say we're tripling our efforts on our decontamination efforts.
Okay. Just give me a second. I'm going to just look at this.
And we have a roughed out, well, it's pretty close. We have a memorandum of understanding that our attorney, Don Ryan, has reviewed, and there might just be one or two little tweaks with some liability language with the Pelican Square ownership.
Okay, board members, we've got a request for board action to allow Land Services to enter into an agreement. Whoops.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just reading it. Okay. Enter into an agreement with Pelican Square ownership of the Pelican Lakes Association to provide decontamination services for the 2020 season located at the Pelican Square Car Wash. Is there a motion to accept that request for board action?
Mr. Chairman.
I would so move.
Quick question.
before-
Gary, these are free to the, there's no charge to the user, user on these?
For decontamination, it's free, correct?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, motion, Commissioner.
I would so move.
Commissioner Brecken moves to adopt the request for board action on the decontamination center. Is there a second by Commissioner Hoag? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So, anything else, Gary?
No, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Now we're on to number 9, Second Amendment dedicated county. Michael Starry, are you still on the phone?
I am.
Okay. I think it'd be probably an appropriate time if you've got something to say it, and then we'll move forward after that.
Thank you.
Go ahead, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm a little confused as to some of the transparency and some of what's taken place with the Second Amendment dedicated county resolution. We've been pushing for this, as you all know, since January when you met with representatives and senators. We've gone through 30-day public comment periods on a resolution written by us, the same one that was passed by 9 of the 10 counties in the state. Immediately after the closing of the public comment period, we find out that county attorney has rewritten the resolution and offered that for passage, which I find to be an interesting lack of transparency. You've asked the community to comment on one and then present a different one. Then it was asked to be removed from this till we could review it, and then suddenly it showed back up on the agenda, which I find confusing. Obviously, we would like the original as we wrote it passed. It's the same one that 9 of the 10 counties in the state have passed. I'm a little concerned about what's taking place, why things have shifted the way they did after a public comment period, and then a new resolution is proposed without knowledge to the public. Kind of seeking a little clarity and kind of wondering where we're at, why it was presented today when it was asked to be pulled today. That's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you for your comments. So, Commissioner Barrows, you asked this to be put on the agenda, so I'm looking to you for direction here, what you want to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I did go through both versions of the resolution and looked at them and felt that the one that County Attorney Ryan presented to us would be the most appropriate one, and for a couple of reasons. But I'd like to read that resolution first and enter my motion in to accept that resolution. So would you like me to read his resolution in its entirety?
When you say his, you mean the county attorney?
From the county attorney, correct.
Go right ahead. You've got the floor.
It's titled Second Amendment Dedicated County Resolution. Whereas the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas the United States Supreme Court in District of Columbia versus Heller, 554 U.S. 570, 2008, affirmed an individual's right to possess firearms unconnected with service in militia for traditionally lawful purposes such as self-defense within the home. And whereas the United States Supreme Court in McDonald versus Chicago, 561 U.S. 742, 2010, affirmed that the right of an individual to keep and bear arms as protected under the Second Amendment is incorporated by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment against the states. And
Whereas the United States Supreme Court in United States versus Miller, 307 U.S. 174, 1939, opined that firearms that are part of ordinary military equipment or with use that could contribute to the common defense are protected by the Second Amendment. Whereas the people of Crow Wing County, Minnesota, derive economic benefit from all safe forms of firearm recreation, hunting, and shooting conducted within Crow Wing County using all types of firearms allowable under the United States Constitution, and whereas certain legislation beyond existing laws to date that has or may be introduced in the Minnesota legislature in the future, and certain legislation which has or may be introduced in the United States Congress in the future could have the effect of infringing on the rights of law-abiding citizens to keep and bear arms, as guaranteed by the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. And whereas the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners concerned about the passage of any new legislation containing language that infringes upon the rights of the law-abiding citizens of Crow Wing County to keep and bear arms, except as otherwise currently prohibited, and whereas the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners wishes to express its deep commitment to the rights of all law-abiding citizens of Crow Wing County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners wishes to express opposition to any law in the future beyond existing laws to date that would unconstitutionally restrict the rights of the law-abiding citizens of Crow Wing County to keep and bear arms, and whereas the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners wishes to express its intent to stand as a county dedicated to Second Amendment rights and to oppose, within the limits of the Constitution of the United States and the state of Minnesota, any efforts in the future to unconstitutionally restrict such rights. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commissioners of Crow Wing County, Minnesota, that the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners hereby declares Crow Wing County, Minnesota as a county dedicated to the Second Amendment, and the Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners hereby affirms the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Crow Wing County, Minnesota. The Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners hereby declares its opposition to any infringement on the right of law-abiding citizens, except as otherwise restricted under current law as of the date of this resolution, and to keep and bear arms to the extent of its legal authority. The undersigned clerk of the Board of Commissioners of the County of Crow Wing hereby certifies that the resolution set forth above was adopted during an open meeting, date to be inserted 2020 by the Board of Commissioners with the following votes, and I would call for a roll call vote.
Okay, and you made that a motion.
I'm making that a motion,
Okay.
yes, sir.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hoag. Any discussion on that motion?
If I could, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
Commissioner Brecken.
If I could address Mr. Ryan. In regards to this resolution, how is it not in conflict with me taking my oath to defend the Constitution?
Commissioner Brecken, you mean the one that Commissioner Burrows just read?
Correct.
Legally, any county board, just like you do on a regular basis when there's legislation you wish to see passed, or maybe you would want to see tweaked, or that maybe you have opposition to, you have the ability to contact local elected officials in the legislature, or to send a resolution or something of that nature to the legislature voicing your opinion. That's what this particular resolution reaffirms that you would be doing if you believe there was something unconstitutional that was before the Minnesota or the federal legislature, generally speaking, in regards to the Second Amendment. The difference between this resolution and the other resolution, which I believe you do not have the legal authority to enforce, and I think the Minnesota County Attorneys Association position paper that I gave you is adopted by the MCAA Board of Directors, said that the example of the resolution they put there is one that you don't have the authority to enact. That could be modified, which is what I have done at the request of Crow Wing County officials, is presented you a modified version of that same bill. The only thing that takes out of there is the attempted position to tell the county sheriff or the county attorney how they will or will not enforce the law, and it does not in and of itself say that you will spend county dollars, so to speak, though the original motion didn't say that as well, but it infers all legal means necessary, that you wouldn't initiate litigation against the state of Minnesota, which I don't believe you can do in opposition to bills before the legislature. So I think this is not in violation of your oath, to abide by the Minnesota and United States Constitution.
Okay. And it shows support for the Second Amendment.
I believe it does.
So, Mr. Chair, I might also throw in there that the MCIT, which is the insurer for the county, has indicated to us that if the resolution that the other group had proposed were to be passed, that we would not have coverage to pay for the legal services that might be required. Therefore, we would be spending tax dollars of everyone in this county to pay for that legal defense.
Where did we get an email on that? I never saw that.
That was brought before us, I believe, Mr. Hool, if you could clarify that that was indicated from MCIT's leadership.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barrows, are you referring to the email that Cass County forwarded to us?
Yes.
And I believe that was not correct.
That's what I heard also, that was not correct, so.
I heard that it was.
I believe we
so-
do have.
Okay.
But I get concerned about that when we're potentially spending tax dollars for something that we won't win. And I think that's been indicated to us by the county attorney.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we're willing to spend those dollars, and I think most of us are concerned about tax dollars and how we spend them and being responsible to the citizens of Crow Wing County, I think that this resolution best exemplifies where we should be going.
Okay. Any further, Commissioner Franzine?
One other, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, I don't agree with you about the MCIT. I have heard that was inaccurate information, and 9 other counties have adopted the same resolution as was submitted and are not having problems. Also, I'm not sure that I agree with County Administrator or County Attorney Ryan. I have the letter from MCAA in front of me, and it says that this template attached may be modified or simply adopted. To me, that means that you don't need to modify it, you can adopt it, and to adopt it would be to adopt the exact, other than the word sanctuary, the resolution that was circulated says dedicated county. In the MCAA, it says sanctuary county. So that's the only difference between the MCAA template and the one that was circulated. So I believe, and I did not talk to the attorney myself, but I do know that there was another attorney who looked at it who appeared to be of the same mind that I am, that is what this says. And I've always, no disrespect to Don, but I've always said if you get 10 attorneys in one room, you're going to have 10 different opinions. So, so I believe from what I've heard from the other attorney that we do have the authority to adopt this, and he believed that is what this said. So, you can interpret things any way you want. And it is a matter of how you interpret, and I believe that I've got it right here, and like I said, it says may be modified or simply adopted.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Commissioner Barrows?
Back to the original discussion about our oath. My real position, my solid position, is that we all take that oath and we take it seriously, and I think every one of us do that. If I had my preference, there wouldn't even be a resolution on this because under the Constitution, the Second Amendment is protected. And we took an oath to that Constitution, and there is no reason to have us restate our position in the support of the U.S. and Minnesota Constitutions. However, I think that to satisfy people, I'm willing to go with this resolution that I read and made the motion on. But personally, I swore my oath, and I would uphold that 110% to anybody, any day of the week.
Okay.
I will say one other thing, that the passion that we've seen from both sides of this issue should be taken to St. Paul and to Washington DC, to Attorney Ryan's point. That's where the laws are made. Those people are the ones who make the laws. We don't have any choice in those matters. When they come down to us, it's our responsibility to take care of business. If we could make the laws, they might be set up differently, but we don't. And so their passion should be directed towards our local legislators at St. Paul and in Washington, D.C.
Well, I kind of disagree with you that we don't have anything to say. I think we do have something to say, and I think people need to start speaking up. And that's what the citizens of Crow Wing County, who came in an overflowing building, came here and wanted us to weigh in. Yeah, do we really have a vote in it? Probably not, but they want to know where their elected officials are on this issue. I watched the news last night, and God, I've got to stop watching the news about they're trying to tear down the statue right in front of the White House of Andrew Jackson, one of our presidents. But nobody's saying anything. They're tearing our history down, and nobody's speaking up. The citizens came here because they're concerned about their Second Amendment rights, and they want to know where their county commissioner stands on this issue. And I think that's
Here's my
where we're at.
oath,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Here's my oath. That's where I stand.
I understand
and to that end, you know, we all do have a voice with our local legislators in St. Paul and Washington, D.C. That's where their energy and their finances should be focused, not in this building.
Okay, Commissioner Franzine?
There's a part of that that I totally agree with. But the simple fact is I also took the oath to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Minnesota. But the Minnesota House of Representatives passed House File 8 and House File 9 this year, which deals with our Second Amendment rights. And this is why this movement is happening. And I stand with the people and the Constitution not to change it. This is what this is. We want it to stay the way it is. We don't want the House of Representatives to be changing and adding, and you know, it just isn't what I swore to uphold.
Mr.
Mr.
Chair, if
Chair?
I might,
Commissioner Barrows?
there are many pieces of legislation that are proposed that don't go anywhere, and particularly when we have a divided legislature in Minnesota like we do. But there are many pieces of legislation that don't go anywhere, that whether we like them or don't like them, doesn't matter. We still, if it passes, we end up carrying the ball on that stuff. If it doesn't pass, we get off easy for a while. But anything can be proposed by a legislator. So I know that this time they even pulled some of those that I would assume you would object to. I don't know if that was in the interest of trying to get a deal done, but they were pulled at the state level. They may appear again. There may be other laws that appear that go the other direction and raise the ire of other people. We aren't in a position with our authority level to address those concerns. As individuals, yes, not as a county.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Brecken?
And we have to be careful because we may have personal opinions on a lot of the issues, but, you know, again, we have to, we take an oath and to uphold the Constitution. This is becoming a political matter, and I think it's something that's going to divide and separate people. And I'm concerned, that's what I'm concerned about. I think that if our legislators want me to legislate, then they should give me the power to legislate, and I'll legislate. But it's not, this is beyond our power. We have to enforce the Constitution. And so I don't see this, I see it only as something that's going to separate and split us up. And if they want us to be a sanctuary state, we should not do it county by county. We should do it as a state issue and make sure that we're there and united. And so this is just one party combating the other based on what happened in regards to what the House did. And it's like, we are nonpartisan, and we have to, I think, act and perform that way.
Okay. Anything,
Well, I
Commissioner
do-
Franzine?
I do agree, we are nonpartisan, but this wasn't started at the county board level. Those two House files passed. It's not like you can say that, oh, maybe they passed. They have passed. So there are changes that the House has approved to take place. I understand why these people want the Constitution to stay the same. With the changes, it is not exactly the same. And yes, as a county, we do have to do what the state tells us. But at this point, it has not passed the Senate, but they're out ahead of the ball. They want to make sure that it doesn't. They want the Constitution of the United States to stay as it is.
Mr. Chair, if I might,
Commissioner Barros?
to the commissioner's point, in St. Paul, it is partisan politics. It is about two parties primarily down there. Here, it's nonpartisan. So when they can argue back and forth and make their deals and that, and you're well aware of that, Mr. Chair, having been down there for years, that's partisan politics. Going down this road, to me, to Commissioner Brecken's point, brings us to a point where we want to interject partisan politics into our nonpartisan position. And I've appreciated this board because it has conducted itself, and previous boards have conducted itself as a nonpartisan group. And these kinds of issues do nothing but bring in partisan politics, which I believe are detrimental to the Crow Wing County Board.
Well, I guess I wonder then, I mean, to me, I remember when the place was full before this COVID-19 stuff, and the place filled up, overflowing of people wanting to hear from their local elected people. And I've seen that happen before with the veteran service officer. The place filled up. And so did this board react? Darn right they reacted. This place filled up for your issue, VRVO, and the board acted. So does that mean when a group of, just because this is none of our concern? Yes, I think it is our concern because we're all citizens of this state and this country. And so when a group of our citizens and our constituents come in here and want us to take action, or they want to know where we stand on an issue, so we just say, no, this is too political for me, and I don't think we should take this up. No, I don't believe that, Steve.
Mr. Chair, again, our oath is about serving the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Minnesota.
What are you holding up? You keep holding that
This is
up.
our oath of office.
Okay.
They know where we stand. If the Second Amendment is in that Constitution, I believe the five of us will uphold that Second Amendment. If somebody disagrees with that, let me know now, because I think your constituents deserve to know that.
I just think that, to me, just sitting in this position and having sat in the Senate before, I think if our state government went totally haywire, and I don't know, God forbid, and only knows what would happen, I certainly would be pushing back if things, I can't remember who the person that quoted this, when World War II was going on and the Nazis were gathering up, they said first they came for the Jewish people and nobody said anything. Then they came for the handicapped and nobody said anything. They came for the gay people and nobody said anything. So if nobody ever speaks up, Steve, and stands up and says, if this county board doesn't stand up and say, hey, wait, Dale Luick, what the hell is going on down there? I think we need to weigh in. I really do.
Mr. Chair?
So I'm glad you brought this. I'm glad you brought this up. This amendment. But I am going to offer an amendment to your resolution to delete all of the language that you have and offer up the version that we had on the county website for 30 days that you asked for, that people commented on, and I think that's the version that they want us to. So I'm going to turn the chair virtually over to you, and I'm going to offer an amendment to your resolution, deleting all your language inserting the language that was on the county website for 30 days. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
And I would ask for roll call on that. You've got the gavel.
Mr. Hool, was that resolution on the website, county website, for 30 days?
I believe it was. The resolution that we had originally gotten was slightly modified in a second version that was submitted, and that did go out for public comment.
And I have a copy of that if anybody would like me to read that.
Do you want Rosemary? Well, you're in charge right now.
No, I think that's not necessary. We've all read it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a roll call vote.
Yep.
Yes.
And before
Commissioner
we have a
Franzi.
roll call vote, I would like you to know that we had 222 different individuals who responded to the 30-day comment period. Of that, 58% were in favor of the Second Amendment resolution as on the website. Only 42% weren't. But then we also got a petition which has over 2,200 signatures that are all in support of the resolution as was on the website. So we've got a big majority of people who responded who are in favor of the resolution for the Second Amendment dedicated county as written and as posted on the website.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I appreciate your remarks. There are 65,000 people in the county. 2,000 or 200 is not a majority.
Well,
So
the people who responded, it's definitely a majority.
I can only say, because I did some figuring, and unfortunately I play with numbers frequently, that the 222 represents less than 0.5% of 1% in this county who responded publicly to our request.
Those were the people that it really matters to.
So at this time, I would call on Therese to call the roll call on the amendment. We're voting now on the amendment to delete all and replace it with the resolution that was presented by, do you want to give me the title on that, Commissioner
It's Second
Franzine?
Amendment dedicated county resolution, and
Okay.
this was what was on the website.
Does everybody understand what we're voting on? This is the delete all and replace.
Commissioner Hoag,
No.
Commissioner Franzine,
Yes.
Commissioner Coring,
Yes.
Commissioner Brecken,
No.
Commissioner Barrows.
No.
That fails. The amendment fails.
So
So
the
the
amendment
original's
fails.
still on.
We're back to the original motion, which is the one that I read that we received from Attorney Ryan.
Okay.
So I'll pass the gavel back to you.
Okay.
Commissioner.
Thank you. So now we are back to the resolution that Commissioner Barrows offered up, and he read it. Any further discussion on that resolution? Hearing no discussion, Therese can take the roll.
Commissioner Hoag,
Yes.
Commissioner Franzine,
Yes, with the reservations. The only reason I'm voting for this is because I don't want it to appear that I don't support the Second Amendment.
Commissioner Coring,
Yes?
Commissioner Brecken,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrows.
Yes.
Passes.
Motion passes. Next, I didn't forget about you, Minnesota State Representative Dale Lewick. We appreciate you. I'm gonna go to you next. We appreciate you coming here. And I believe you've got an update for us, and if we've got any questions, I really appreciate you coming here so that we can ask you some questions if we have any, and I appreciate you. And if you want to step up here, Representative Lewick, we really welcome you to the County Board of Commissioners here in Crow Wing County.
Well, thank you. Good morning, board members, and it's excellent to come to relearn another lesson on how you probably ought to do business. Very instructive. that every one of you take your oath of office very seriously, and frankly, you know, you all got elected certificate, you've all heard that, and you're certainly accountable to those folks that elected you. So regardless, if you fail to listen to them, there's great peril in that, and I think that goes all the way back to our Constitution. So anyway, on a much easier subject, to give you a quick update on the special session that the governor called us back on Friday the 12th. He had little or no choice had he not brought us back into session. His martial law powers would have expired, or he would have been into a serious legal issue as to whether he could continue to execute martial law. And I use that term after suffering under this for a number of months. Make no mistake, we're dealing with classic exercise of martial law, where one individual is essentially making the laws and enforcing them. Now, he's doing that under the state statute that allows him to do that, so we got to be fair with that. We adjourned at, I believe it was 6:47 on Saturday morning. That was still Friday. When you're talking about legislative days, we would have, at 7 p.m. that morning, we would have clicked into another day. You know, there's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that at least a word got out, because I don't see a lot of that. We actually did do some things. We passed 11 bills that either have been already signed or are awaiting signature at the governor's desk, and they literally, with exception of two, were specifically COVID-19 related. A lot of them were providing some step downs if at some point we take the martial law powers back away from the governor, or he sometime probably next fall, or at the rate we're going next winter, decides to give them up on his own. As I look at the long-term planning, I'm not optimistic that we won't be having the same discussion come October and November as to whether or not it's appropriate that we stay under this type of management. And to give you an idea, and you folks here just did a classic example of that. Of those 11 bills, the one with the biggest smile on his face was 131-0, you know, and the most tenacious one that passed by a big bipartisan margin was 117-9. I just want to dispel this rumor. You hear it time and time again. You people can't work together in St. Paul. It's all about partisanship. There was 11 of them that really we didn't have any issue with. There were 3 of them that I didn't support that did pass. And make no mistake, when a bill passes from either body, depending on whether it came from the other body, it either goes back to the other body and goes to conference committee. If it was changed, it goes to the governor. But it is a huge situation when any body in the House of Representatives passes any piece of legislation, because it is a major, major step. 4,500 bills this past session. Just a handful were passed by either body, and even fewer of them made it to the governor. The 3 that didn't go so well, Senate File 104, which was a bill that attempts to do some reform, do some major changes to police enforcement across the board, both, you know, training, specifics to what is acceptable, non-acceptable. The Senate had 11 pretty key non-controversial items that they put together, sent it over to us. That bill promptly got loaded up into a basket case that I couldn't support. So I voted against that. It still passed, but it didn't match the Senate, and that's where it ended. It died. So nothing happened there. Now, House File 132, another one that, this one actually didn't originate in the Senate. It originated in our world, and that would have took about $300 million and focused it right square on that Lake Street area in Minneapolis to rebuild things there. There was some, frankly, unbelievable things in that legislation. One example that just turned my stomach was the creation of a appointed board that specifically called, to be a member, you had to be a person of color or a Native American, period. Let me repeat that again. This day and age, in a country that has worked continually for equal rights for everybody, we had a piece of legislation put before us that did go to the Senate, and they frankly sat on it. And as happens here sometimes, a motion gets no second. But let me say that again. Specifically to appoint a board to act in the name of the people that eliminated everybody from serving on that unless you were a person of color or a Native American. That, I'll be quite blunt, looks like the kind of things that happened under Reconstruction after the Civil War. No place for that in the House of Representatives, and so I voted against that. And I say, Senate just admired it on the floor and left it alone. The third one, which has been a real cakewalk, and we've had discussions over, was Senate File 47. As we were getting ready for this special session, there's over $2 billion of federal money that was sent by the federal government to the state. 841 million were basically earmarked to come down to the local units of government, period. Under martial law, the governor could have sent that down any day of the week without our input or anything else. He chose not to do that. We put together what we thought was a reasonably generous compromise, and that was agreed to, despite what you hear about. It was agreed to by all four leaders, both minority and majority, before we went into session. And so you get a little perspective. Crow Wing County is set up to get about a little over $8 million in total. That's about $124.07 per capita, depending on what population numbers you use. In that same wheelhouse, Hennepin County and Ramsey County, we're going to get $174.49 per capita. So make no mistake, there was compromise there, real compromise. Now they had more issues, obviously. I think their per capita positive COVID numbers are obviously higher. You get down to county by county, that can vary. The Senate fires that over to the House on Monday, as it was agreed to. We had gotten word on the weekend that the House was going to take that and load up that with a whole bunch of stuff, including the governor's supplemental budget, which probably wouldn't have looked exactly like he proposed it had he had the I guess, intestinal fortitude to actually have that introduced as standalone bill. So the first thing that happened when that came over was we asked to suspend the rules so we could act on it right now on Monday and get it to the governor Monday night. And you guys would have been trying to figure out how to spend that money middle of last week. That vote failed, obviously, in the House, and it was sent to committee. So it goes to Ways and Means, and stand by. You've seen Christmas trees get decorated. That's exactly what happened. And there was some important good things that got put on there. But it just, as I said on the House floor, this is a classic example of what, and I think Commissioner Coring's heard this term before, how you destroy something by adding a poison pill to it. You know it's going to blow it up. So it comes back, so here's your choices sitting there. You can vote to send it over the Senate where it's going to blow up, or you can just simply register your disappointment and opposition to doing it. It should have went to the governor. So I voted against that one. So I'm part of the problem, make no mistake. That's why you're not counting those dollars at this point and spending them. It's absolutely disappointing, and we'll continue to work. And just so you get a perspective, I happen to be, I and two of my DFL friends, in fact, the chair of the tax committee, Paul Marquardt, and I and another young fellow were walking back at about almost 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. And as we were getting ready to go back to our office to take a cat nap, we bumps into Senator Gazelka, the leader in the Senate. He was going in the chamber to break from recess, and he thought they had a second compromise beyond the $174.49 for one group of people, and significantly less for another group of people. So we thought, oh, this is great. About an hour and a half later, we get woke up, back to the chamber. We're gonna adjourn because even that fell apart when there was an effort to give more to the metro counties. So I just want to set the record straight because you're gonna most of our media, with exception right here, bless our heart, comes out of the metro. That's what we live with. Most of the stories are written down there. But I just wanted to set the record straight on that. I anticipate we'll be called back, I believe it's July 13th or 14th, because the governor, again, his martial law ticket will run out on that day or thereabouts. So in order to continue that, we have to be in session. And this is just the way state statute works. He can go 30 days after he declares a state of emergency when we're not in session, and then he has to call us back. Or it blows up, disappears. When we're in session, we have to take it away from him. So the Senate voted by a significant bipartisan margin, first day of session, to say, Governor, we need to curtail this and get on to a very focused public health response and back up here on some of the pretty onerous things that are going on relative to normal operation and business. That it passed by a very significant bipartisan majority in the Senate, came over to the House. We actually were able to convince our peers to allow us to bring that to the floor and debate it. But again, that one went down on a pretty much, as you say, nonpartisan party line vote. And of course, I did vote for that bill. I don't make a habit of voting for bills that don't pass, but that one never left the House. So that's where we're at. Sounds like we're busy doing steam, hot water cleaning of the EIS stuff, which we talked about. I had a lengthy discussion with one of the deputy commissioners over, goodness sakes, any of us can go down to local hardware store and buy a hot water cleaner. And so what's this big deal about you're not trained, you got to be so highly trained that we can't get out there and protect our lakes from EIS, and particularly because I know you guys own that equipment. So like it or not, you talked about liability here. If you own it and you let a volunteer use it, frankly, it's on, ultimately, you guys are holding the bag on that from a liability standpoint, and I know better than that any of the county boards out there are going to allow people to just go out and do stupid stuff. So with that, again, was nice to sit here and just watch things conducted the way the way they're supposed to be. You always got disagreements, but at the end, you finally move on and get on with it, and next, So anyway, that's all I had to say. But again, I just wanted to make sure that you got a firsthand view of what happened over the past special session, and not have to read it all through the Metro Media approach, which is, I got my own opinion on that, but that's all right. Doesn't count. But any questions?
Thank you, Representative Lewick. Any questions from the county board members?
I'll just say, I want to thank you for all the work you did do down there, and it sounds like if I were sitting in your chair, I would have voted the same way you did on all those issues, so thank you very much.
Well, appreciate that. As you all know, sometimes with election certificate, it gets pretty lonely. As to, you get to make a decision. So, but yeah, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. We really appreciate you taking your time to come here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go to the solitude of a tractor and a hay conditioner and cut some hay.
That sounds like a great idea.
All right, thank you.
Thanks again, Dale. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next on the county board's agenda is the county sheriff, but the chief deputy is here, and I after I read about up in Duluth, I don't know that I'm supposed to call you the chief deputy anymore. So I guess we got to figure out a different name. Any comments from you? Not today. Okay. County attorney, any further comments or updates from you, Don? Not today. Thank you, county attorney, and thank you for being here for the whole meeting. We appreciate it. County administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I did pass around a letter from Senator Kerry Rude, and it contained, I think, kind of the same information about the CARES Act dollars that Representative Lewick just covered. So just wanted to bring that to your attention to make sure that you had that. It is, I think, unfortunate for us that a compromise couldn't get done at the end of the day, and so we sit here and wait. Then I also wanted to bring up to you the complete count. We have our census going on right now in the county, and we are at about a 50% completion rate for the voluntary information that has been sent out. As an example, Representative Lewick was just pointing out that there was a per capita rate assigned to the distribution formula for the Federal CARES Act. And so it matters to us that people get counted. And that would have translated into an additional $50,000 potentially if there are for every 1,000 in population. That would have resulted in an additional $50,000 for us. And so to give you some idea of, it's just really important that people respond to the census.
So this is a question for you. How do you know, do you get an update? Because I would assume the census is being conducted by the federal government.
Correct.
So do you get an update? How do you know that it's 50% done?
I read it in the dispatch.
Oh. Okay. I don't know how Chelsea knows that, but.
There is a complete count committee in Crow Wing County, and it is trying to increase the rate of participation in the census, and so I believe that's where the dispatch may have gotten the information, but here comes Debbie, and I know she's plugged into that.
Mr. Chair, I can provide a little input
Our
to that.
Administrative Services Director, Debbie Erickson, go
And
ahead.
the dispatch actually got the information from Crow Wing County. But the Complete Count Committee consists of representatives of Crow Wing County as well as the municipalities across the community and some of our different organizational community groups who are helping to participate to get as many people to respond to the census as possible. So we've reached out to the faith community, to local senior centers, to other community organizations that would help bring that message out to the public to make sure we get everybody counted as much as possible. The Census Bureau does give us updates on what the self-response rate has been, so we can continue to monitor that situation and provide as much input as possible to help try to get people to respond. If citizens have misplaced their little postcard that they got in the mail that told them how to go online, they don't have to have the postcard in order to respond. You can go to the Census Bureau website. You can click the link that is there to say to do the self-response. It will walk you through the steps of getting the information that is necessary for you to do that without waiting for that postcard. So sometimes I know how mailings get misplaced or filed in the wrong location, or it's very easy to put a postcard in, lose that in the mail. If you don't have the postcard and you haven't completed your response card yet, your self-response, you can go to the Census Bureau website, click the link for self-response, and it will walk you through that process.
Mr. Hool.
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess that falls into the category of oftentimes only know enough to be dangerous. And Debbie, of course, had better information than I. It's just really important. And so, and the other thing is it's going to save us taxpayer dollars, because if we don't do the census then voluntarily, then they send out people to try to find us. And so it's just a lot easier if we just self-report. So just wanted to encourage that. I was not here for the senior management team meeting yesterday, and so I did ask Debbie to chair the meeting for me, and so she is prepared to give you a report on it, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, can I back up to my time because I have a comment now?
Absolutely. Yes, County Attorney.
I went online when we got the postcard and did the census stuff online, and if a dinosaur like me can do it, anybody can do it. So it's really easy. I just thought I should add that in.
Well, there's no,
It took me less than 2 minutes.
there's no doubt about it. If you can do it, I know anybody can do it. That's a good statement. And I did the same thing, Don. Went online and did it. It was easy.
Mr. Chair, I'm starting to get a little concerned about how tech savvy the county attorney is getting. During the
And
SM2
somebody
senior-
almost said Attorney General. I think it was Commissioner Barrows almost let that slip out. I thought, Attorney General.
During the senior management team meeting yesterday, he actually transported us to space with the background on his virtual meeting space. So he's actually learning all the tech tools, and it's really cool to see. During the senior management team meeting yesterday, we had a presentation from our continuous improvement team to talk about a report out on one of the projects that they've recently completed. It was kind of nice. We had a couple of newer green belts who had completed working on their first project. Carrie Ekman, who's with the County Attorney's Office, and Denise Shadeen from Community Services presented their update on the fleet claims project. The fleet claims, whenever there's any type of an accident or anything that triggers a claim to our insurance agency with any of our fleet vehicles, what we were finding was that there was not a lot of good communication that was happening for the fleet manager to get notice of these things. There was a delay in getting the claim submitted. Nobody was really sure who was responsible for it. So the team did work to make sure that now the process is involving the dispatch, regardless, not the Brainerd dispatch, our dispatch office in the sheriff's office, to make sure that regardless of the severity of the accident, if there's any type of accident, it gets reported to dispatch so that they can create a ticket, which in turn notifies the fleet manager to submit the claim to the insurance office and to make sure that all of that is documented and flowed through. So really great to hear another innovative project that's coming out of the continuous improvement team. Of course, we had a COVID update, and conversation around this was mainly around the recovery and reimbursement process. We are starting to submit to FEMA for those Category B emergency protective measures, and we're still trying to figure out what will be covered under that area. Also looking at what will potentially be covered under the CARES Act funding that Representative Lueck was discussing, and hopefully when that does get approved at the legislative level, we'll be ready to submit for that as well. We did have discussion around making sure we continue to encourage our employees to wear masks in public, to make sure that they're modeling precautions to the public as well. And we are continuing to work with our business community partners to look at long-term planning and recovery measures. Additionally, we talked about the business managers that we have within each of our units. As you know, they've been involved in our process across the organization. And while each division uses their business manager in a little bit different way, there's that financial component that we want to make sure is being measured appropriately across the organization. And what we talked about was creating a key performance indicator, a KPI, to go in each of those business managers, Trackstar or performance management, to make sure that the information is getting to the senior managers the same and consistently. So we've talked about how we can create that verbiage and apply it in each of our areas with a little bit of flexibility there. We've revisited the need to have some resources available for staff training and incident debriefing in circumstances of the need across the organization for that. HR is going to be compiling some resources that we have internally from different departments, and also looking at any applicable external resources, and we'll create a protocol or a library of resources to have available for that as well. I know Land Service team went through some training with regard to some of that with an internal resource from the Sheriff's Office and found a lot of value in that also. And finally, we talked about some HR initiatives. Revamping our new supervisor training is being rolled out for our new supervisors this week. The HR team has done some great work around that. Our personnel manual rewrite, which was going to occur in 2020, has now been pushed out to 2021, given some of the other things that have come up. And innovation in action, a new law that went into effect last year, says that we have to provide any notice to any time an employee has a wage adjustment. We have to provide notice to that employee and they have to acknowledge it. So to make that happen at the beginning of this year, when we had wage adjustments that occurred, we printed off a whole bunch of pieces of paper with the old wage and the new wage and had the employee sign it. Our HR team, Amy Fisher, has found a way that we can utilize our ERP system and our employee self-serve portal and tie those two things together, so the employee will get an email when there is an adjustment to their wage. They will be prompted to log into ESS, and they will have an acknowledgement opportunity there to create that. So good things happening that way. Thank you.
Deb, one question. So the primaries coming up quick. Is everything, because I know there's been a lot of changes and a lot of different, like Long Lake where I live, they put in to have the mail-out ballots. Is everything going on track, or any hiccups or anything? Or?
Mr. Chair, things change on a daily basis in elections, as we know. Right now, the absentee voting period for the primary actually opens this Friday, June 26th. We're hopeful that we'll have our ballots ready and available at that point in time. We've gotten our ballot vendor the information, and we'll be working on that process to get those ballots out in the mail to those voters who have requested to receive an absentee ballot. Mail voters who live in a mail ballot precinct, those ballots will be going out in about a week and a half is when they'll be mailed out, around the beginning of July, to those voters for that particular purpose. There is a new development that occurred last week. There was a lawsuit from the League of Women Voters of Minnesota against the Secretary of State's office with regard to witness requirements during COVID, as well as return time of ballots. The League and the Secretary have come to an agreement that the judge has signed off on that basically will state that a witness will not be required for the 2020 primary. If the voter does not have a witness for their absentee ballot or for their mail ballot, if they were already a registered voter, so if they're a registered voter and they do not have a witness for their absentee or mail ballot, it is not grounds for rejection for the 2020 primary. So we are busy putting stickers on our envelopes to modify the requirements of the envelopes that we've already had pre-printed and reprinting instructions. Additionally, the agreement also says that ballots have to be accepted up to 2 days following Election Day if they were postmarked by Election Day. So we need to figure out what that looks like for reporting results on election night as well.
So then, if there's I know that in Manhattan Beach one time, I think there was like it was a tie.
It was a tie. They had to flip a coin.
And it was a coin flip, so, yeah, I've seen lots of elections, so we could have the election, but if there's still some ballots that come in and they're postmarked, that if let's say it was a tie, that could, we might not know the results for a couple of days later, correct?
Well, and the tie, remember on election night, results are always unofficial results until the canvas board meets.
Oh, okay.
So with the city of Manhattan Beach, in that particular case where there was a tie, that was considered unofficial until the city council had met to canvass those official results. What the law says with regard to the ballots that are received is that they have to be received prior to the canvas board meeting. After the primary election, the county is required to canvass either the second or third day after the election. So we would only be authorized to accept ballots that are postmarked by election day if we receive them prior to the canvas board meeting.
Sure, okay. Thanks for that update. Oh, any questions from the county board? Steve?
Nope.
Oh, no? Okay.
No questions.
I want to thank her. Thanks, Deb. Can't help myself, Steve. Mr. Hool, anything else?
No, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Hool? Any additional business? There's no additional business. Chair would accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Barrows, seconded by Commissioner Franzine to adjourn. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Well, there you go.